All right. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? How are you all doing this fine morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're from? I'm Jaggy, and I'm joined by Christian.
Hello, I'm going to be subbing a little bit because Dragonfly has a little bit of things to do. He's going to be running late, but I'm here with Jaggy. Finally, the people want you, man.
It's certainly been a while. I've just been in and out of the game for a bit, but I'm glad to be back. Even if it's just a one-off, I'm not entirely sure, but certainly is glad to be back.
So I think we can go to the lineups now. It's EXO versus Avail, Division
Yeah,
2, Week 2, and we can start off with EXO's lineup. So it's
yeah.
going to be Artie, Goomba, Yosh, Zane, Mank. I don't know what you think about this type of LU.
I
I know Goomba's first time playing.
I would actually like to preface this by saying I think this is going to be a pretty good matchup. I'm very interested to see, as you guys all know, Avail has been in the community since the dawn of time, but EXO, they've been slowly climbing up the ladder over these past couple of GSC seasons, and like towards the end of the latter stage of MKPS as a whole. Goomba making his start this season is interesting. I think last season he played for like a D. I forget which team he played for. Auspician, right? I think it
Who are
was,
you talking about?
but
Sorry.
Goomba.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he was part of AU at some point, but I looked up a wrong Goomba me later, so I don't know if there's two in the community, but this is the right one. So
I think that's the
Artie
right
and
one. Yeah.
Yosh, yeah, Artie and Zane, according to their averages, huge averages in the division, probably going to be the ones that are going to front run throughout this whole match. And we don't have any data for Goomba, so it's actually kind of exciting to see a new player on the team and see how he performs with all the people that have been in EXO for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how Goomba performs today. Actually, I mean, don't think of him as somebody that's just coming in as a sub because he's been around for a while and he's played with this group actually for years. It's just a matter for EXO. It's just been a matter of who is going to be their tried and true fourth because it's always been Artie, Yoster, and Zane. And in the first game, I think it was Ethan who played didn't have the best performance, so then they ended up slotting someone else in the second match, and they just got to find their fourth. And I think Goomba is a good candidate for that. As you mentioned, Artie with a decent average this season in 34.7, and he's kind of transitioned. Last year in MKPS, he sort of transitioned from someone who makes a lot of plays in the middle of the pack to someone who can actually truly run and keep his frontal presence. He has got it all. And I think Artie's certainly someone to look at as a strong player. And then Yoster, of course, lots of experience. Zane, lots of experience. I think this roster is fairly strong. And then Mank as a bagger, fairly consistent. And I've played him a couple of times. He mixes it up. Some baggers like to stay content with their strategies. Like myself personally, I'm usually the one that goes second. Like I let the other person go first and I get the box. But Mank mixes it up. Fairly difficult to bag against sometimes. He knows his strats, and I think this lineup overall is strong.
Yeah, I so agree. And we have Henry substituting me. So I think we can go to the AV lineup because I think there are 10 players in the room. So we can go and quickly change up. But strong lineup from EXO.
Certainly. And let's transition over to AV. Also, I see Henry. How you doing, Henry? Not yet, not yet. Okay, he's not ready yet. Okay, but he will be coming in. I assume after we talk about the lineups. But now let's talk about Avail. So we got Zoan, Knight, Ballin, Olifrey, and Joris. Pretty standard for Avail. Of course, we all know that they did lose a couple of players. I know they used to have Kevin, uh, but they have been rocking this lineup through and through. Um, and of course, you look at Ballin, right? He used to be like their fifth or sixth runner, last couple seasons or back in MKPS. But Ballin really has stepped up the plate, and this man can do some damage. Certainly could do some damage if you see any of AV in the top spots. And Zoan has also improved a lot. Only a 32.4 average this season, but there's nowhere to go but up from here if you're Zoan. Ollie Frey, as usual, pretty strong runner. And then Joris, I'm making this quick because we're about to start. Joris has been around the bagging scene for a very long time, and in terms of the bagging battle, I think it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to win out. My prediction is going to be actually, I think EXO might win this one by about 18 or so, but I think this one will be close. Starting
Yeah,
off here
whenever
with Artie, though.
yeah, whenever Henry comes back, I'll go ahead and sub. But Artie and Ollie Frey and I think Zoan are going to be the ones POV. His Zoan's POV is kind of like laggy, so we'll stick with Artie and Ollie Frey for now. But two really good players, so we can have a lot of excitement here, don't you think?
Ooh.
And
Yes, certainly.
it appears the final score has already been determined. So
Oh,
maybe we'll take this one home.
There it is.
All
Yeah, but
right, for my time, these guys.
if we go back a little bit, that was a really strong start there by EXO. They were 1-3-4, and then Ollie Frey took a bit of an odd line in the Jack strat, but he got redded out anyway. It was just a top 2-4 versus a 1-3-4 after his odd line. But Knight's going to find himself up there after, finding himself with the Shroomer or Golden. Nice back there.
And Knight being up here is very, very quintessential for AV because Knight is probably one of the best runners here. I think he's a very underrated runner. I've had the opportunity of playing with and against him before in many different wars. So I think that his skills as a runner and also as a player in the top spots is
Yeah, and that was a crucial mistake there if you saw that from Artie, as he did pull triple shrooms after he had failed the Jack strat, so had he not, he could have easily broken away from those top spots. So we're seeing, I think, 1-3 here for EXO, 2-4 for Avail. Not entirely sure what happened to Zone. I think he might have gotten mixed up in the middle of the pack with like a back spam or something, but the pack's still tight here. I see Artie goldening up, and it's interesting to see what item he pulls here. This could be huge. Ooh.
And this shot is very, very big as it is gonna get it's going to get artsy in the cannon and probably net EXO a good race here. I mean, I don't imagine that players will be able to really recover
we see
from that
Ballin
one.
getting up there though. He might have dodged just outside the cannon and maybe had a good chain, so he's gonna make himself a frontal presence here. And with these triple greens here from Artie, he's not going to be able to snipe anybody because of EXO up there, but see, this is going to be tight. Oh.
And it appears that one of the EXO members has fallen off. I'm pretty sure that was Artsy, and that will net a 1-4 for Avail. Meanwhile, EXO will be taking the 2-3-7 spots? 2-3-6-7, I think. Not a very good race for EXO, especially after you've used that shock, which was meant to net you guys in a win.
Yeah, and the way he fell off, actually, he kind of got a little psyched out. He had triple greens, and Zone ended up pulling triple reds directly behind him. And we did see Artie swerving a little bit. I think he was trying to get that dice roll side swipe of a green. But I think if he maybe had kept his line there and try to continue on and try to time his back greens as the reds were thrown from Zoan, maybe he could have kept a spot, but did try to swerve a little bit and ended up getting caught with those reds and getting off the track there.
Not a very good race for EXO, all things considered, but a great showing by Avail, showing that they were able to really recover from that shock usage from from EXO.
Yeah, and typically in Maple True, I mean, usually whenever you see people in the top spots, barring a couple of fails or barring maybe, people taking cut in the beginning of the lap with Shrooms or Golden or Star, usually you see teams run away, but that was really a seesaw affair, back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Very true. So as for the track picks that we're going to see here, I think that these are pretty standard, DDR for a team that's in 2-3, second can try and sort of crowd around first, make their life, really a living nightmare on the sand hop. And third can maybe go a bit wider, try and get a mid-spot box, and hopefully net out some shrooms or something. So I think that if it's picked in EXO's favor, then they have a better shot at winning that track than AB.
And there it is, right on cue, DDR. Third really does have a decision to make here, whether to go wide or take the sand hop. I think going wide would be safer, as taking the sand hop in third is a little bit sketchy sometimes, but we'll see what happens here. Let's pay attention to Oliver, actually.
We do see RT opting to bag, trying to get a box in 8th. Will he get a golden mushroom? And it looks like if we switch over to the POV, he's going to be getting triple shrooms.
Ooh.
Not a very good way to start it off, but a golden,
Switch back, switch back.
which is very good.
Oh, there you go. I think that was a bad time to switch back, actually, because Olifere did have the triple greens, and he did end up getting the snipe off in the end after the second or third attempt. But we saw in the beginning, Olifere opted not to go for the sand hop in second, trying to play it safe, not get bumped, but he
In this
does make it
red,
count.
oh, that's got to be tough, especially
Ooh.
with the net time loss, and maybe he could have gotten bumped by the bats. That just did not seem very good. But he will still be able to take the golden ultra, which is going to net him a first place. That is really good timing for EXO there.
And nicely taken as well. That golden strat was taken to perfection there from Artie, as we're going to be seeing him slip up into first. And he isn't not in sniping range, just barely out of it. We'll see how Olifere takes his lines here. Maybe he can catch up eventually and get a snipe off towards the later half of the race.
And I think that Olifere's skills as a driver here are going to be very, very useful in trying to get into sniping range of RT. And this
Yup, not
shroom
to
as
get up there.
well is also going to be very, very quintessential to Olifere
Interesting.
being able to
Artie
get into first.
doesn't take the sand hop. That is very interesting to see. And Olifere takes the Casper shortcut there. Very underutilized.
I did not know that was called the Casper shortcut. It's interesting.
It's something that I usually see Casperinos take.
So we are seeing that they are neck and neck here. It'll really just come down to who's the better driver. I don't think that RT or Olifere have any items too. So and the shock is coming in, and that's hard to see which team that benefited, but it does look like Olifere is going to be getting blued, and RT will take this one home.
It looked to me like Artie did slow down a little bit before that shock came in, so I would assume that was an EXO shock there, but he just missed time. I think EXO slightly mistimed that shock as Artie did slow down, and it allowed Olifere to sneak into first, but that quick blue, I mean, that was really unfortunate there for Olifere. As soon as he slipped up into first, gets blued after he drove a, damn near perfect race there, catching up to Artie slowly but surely.
Yeah, I think it's very good to point out how Olifere drove very well that race. I mean, he was able to catch up to RT all the way up until the last ramp, where obviously he was shocked on, and then that lucky blue pole really just made things much more difficult for him. But that will be a winning race for AV, which leads me to believe that it was actually their shock in the end that caused them to get the W.
It was hard to see, as we did have, top two POVs there, and it did look like Artie slowed down, so it was just kind of a toss-up there of who actually used it, but in the end, it did certainly benefit AV in the end.
A close matchup we've already got going here, as we see the scores 57-65. As for the tracks that these two teams are going to pick here, I think AV is probably going to opt into a more RBC or even a CM, DKS kind of track, because obviously they're in those upper middle spots where they can sort of just swarm around first, make things very difficult for him to keep that position. And I think that the core that they have in 2, 3, 4 to try and bump around RT very much, I think that that's going to be very useful in trying to get him out of there.
But when you got players like Yoster and Artie, who are pretty consistent with the Ultra, Yoster especially, usually you see him going for it almost every lap and very consistent at it. Not surprised to see this pick coming out.
Yeah, BC3 here is going to be really good for basically any team here if they're just able to make the shortcuts consistently. Obviously you've got some great ultra takers in this room, and you've got some people who are really good at shroomless in this room. It's basically whatever people see fit, they'll do it. And depending on who blocks the cut, who unblocks the cut, it's going to be a very different race. And RT will be the first casualty of this race, as he is bumped all the way into 6th place and opts not to take the shortcut.
Yeah, he partially failed one of the low tricks, which allowed one of the players to catch up to him. I got to say, earlier in that race, too, I got to give props there to Olifere for getting the draft on Zoan and getting himself up there to block the cut, which ended up getting unblocked in the end, allowing Knight to take it really quickly, though. So AV adapting very well to start off this race.
1-3 for Avail, as they are taking a pretty commanding lead over the other players. And it does appear, however, that they are losing the bagging paddle by quite a bit. I think if we're to see an EXO shock here, then it's probably going to come early sometime around this lap or in the next 20 seconds or so. because they really sort of need a miracle to win this race now that Avail has taken this lead, and it starts off with a shock.
Yeah, no shock here yet, though, for EXO. Not that they would want to use it this lap regardless, as they do have a lot of catching up to do, and we are going to be seeing another one of AV taking cut there. It's going to be a top 3 pretty cleanly here for AV.
Mhm. And this is the thing about Avail, right? You know, these guys have been playing this track for so long now, and they have the
Switch over to
experience
Artie
over.
here.
Yeah, they have the experience over EXO that, you know, they just sort of know how to take a lead on BC3 and command it to where, you know, now it's going to be really difficult to get their core in top 3 of Olafray, Zoan, and Knight out of top 3.
And this is where Artie is going to be in sort of a rock and a hard place. He's going to have to go for Ultra if he wants to break anything up. They're not going to lose much if he does miss it. So I think you have a lot more to lose here. If you, oh, that works too. Unblocks both fibs.
He unblocks the cut, uses the shock as we predicted earlier, and it seems like someone is dodging up at a bill. We would assume, yes, that is Yoster.
Oh.
He is going to be in 2-3 with EXO here, catching up really quickly. Now RT's in first, and this is looking like a much different race for EXO. Oh! Oh, that is not good.
Doesn't look like anybody got caught in that. That was a good slow attempt there from...
It was a good slow down attempt, but this will be a top 3, maybe even a top 3 for AV here.
The tides have turned once again. We thought that was going to be a 1-3 or a top 2 there. But
yeah,
again, that was kind of payback for what happened in DDR as Olafray did get insta-blued after shock, and now the tides have turned and already gets insta-blued after shock.
And it's really these items that are being pulled after the shock, these blues, that are making such a difference for both of these teams. I mean, you know, we saw AV take the reins for a lot of that race. When the shock came, you know, we really were dead set on EXO being the ones to take it home. But now it's an AV top 4 after that blue shell and shock combo, which is a really, really bad precedent to set if you're EXO there, you know, losing by that much in race 4.
Add that one to the fridge, ladies and gentlemen. I think we might be seeing Rainbow Road here. I wouldn't be surprised. That's something that AV would pick in the past, especially with Kevin in the roster. But even without him, I still think that they would be keen on picking something like that.
Yes. And when you're picking a track like Rainbow Road against, you know, people from different continents or people who live in NA, I think that it's a very, very good track to pick if you're European, because, you know, it's a lot of thin space. It's a lot of opportunities to bump the other players, maybe even bump them off, or at least bump them to where, you know, it's difficult for them to catch back up. And so I think that a track like this for AV right now, with this top 4 position that they're locked into, I think if it picks them, then it's gonna be very difficult for EXO to make a stab at this race.
Yeah, I think in terms of the bagging strat, I think I'm not sure. Not sure if either bagger is super consistent at the strat. I think both baggers know how to take it and maybe have made it a couple of times. But it'll be interesting to see if Mank makes it. He has a tough job to do, as if they don't break these top spots early, so it's all on Mank to try to take that backwards strat with the shrooms or golden and try to change something up.
And Mank here, I think that it's very good to point out that Mank is probably one of the best baggers that are out right now. I mean, I think that he might be the best bagger playing in D2 actively. Oh! That is not good if you're RT here. That's gonna send him all the way to 7.
That's the lag factor that you're talking about there. And Artie opted to go really tight there with the golden instead of going over the middle. Going over the middle obviously is slower because you get more airtime, but it's a safe route, so you don't hit any back spams. And unfortunately, that was the case there for Artie.
And to put it lightly, RT is now flailing and flopping all the way back in last. I think that this race is already, sort of
he pulled Bill though. This is huge. He pulled Bill.
I mean, this Bill, this Bill could change a lot of things, especially now that Mank can take the backward strat, hopefully with some shrooms. But
he did opt to go backwards early to try to get the 9th place box though.
We are seeing a top 3 from Avail here, and this is the thing about 3 Euros being in top 3. It's going to be very difficult for any American who gets in the 4th or 5th place to really try and break up that core and really try and make life difficult for them, because obviously they just have that kind of advantage on this track to where they're able to run it up in top 3 without any real problems.
Yeah. I'm not really. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's going to be too much to talk about here unless something dramatic happens on the top two of AV. Maybe a little bit of a flub. I don't think. I mean, these players are experienced enough
Yeah,
not to
yeah.
flub
Well,
up.
let's not count out EXO already here because um, I think that it's possible that Mank could pull a set of triple shrooms, maybe even pull the shock in ninth or something like that, and that would definitely change the tides for EXO. I mean, they're down, but they're not out. You could say.
Certainly, and we do see both baggers are still kind of struggling for the shock here as the bagger who just went forward actually fell off on the right-hand side going forward. Not sure what that's about. Uh, so the other bagger maybe has a shot at... No, the other bagger's just sitting there. He might just be content to just sit there and allow AV to just run up in top three. Not taking any risks.
And I think that this top three is already set in stone for Avail here.
Oh!
You see that this POW is gonna
How
end
did
up
Zone
having
survive
Zone
that?
surviving, and yeah, I don't think that there's a lot that EXO can do from here on out to really break this up.
That was beautifully done there from Zone. Just kind of threaded the needle to keep himself alive there. Like he, hopped and then slowed down, just decelerated right before he ended up falling off, and it ended up working wonders for him.
And we're seeing Avail taking a very commanding lead in these first 5 races here. Because, obviously, or actually 4 races, that's my fault, sorry. We're seeing them take a very commanding lead here with a 50 bomb from Allafray to really show EXO who they're dealing with. And top 4 in the room is going to net I think that's a 56-point win. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew, wow. It seems very one-sided here already, folks, but let's not count out EXO. I mean, we have seen these guys clutch up in the past before in multiple different instances, but it's going to be very difficult. It's an uphill battle from here.
Certainly, and it's certainly going to be tough to kind of break that momentum, especially because Ollie Frey starting second in room, right? Ollie Frey has been absolutely on it so far in terms of his running lines and keeping his frontal presence, and that'll put a little bit of pressure on Zane. But we know how you know how Zane is up in the front. He's very strong, and it'll be interesting to continue seeing that battle up in top two as these races progress.
Oh yeah, very, very true. Zane is probably one of, if not the strongest runner in the room. I think that his presence in first place is very potent. People know when he's in first place, and I think that when he's up there, it's a very different story for EXO, but he just hasn't been able to get that many opportunities to really excel.
Let's see. RBC is going to be the pick here. Pretty standard if you're 246. I mean, it is the most neutral track you can pick in alt spots.
Very true. I think that these track picks are pretty standard for these sort of teams.
Yoshi Falls though.
Yoshi Falls is unorthodox for most teams. However, I do think that EXO is experienced on that track enough to where they can pick it and feel confident about their decision. However, it will go onto RBC for this next race.
Yeah, Zane does have a lot to work with here, as he is going to be starting off in first. Usually we see swerve to the left and then to the right, but then sometimes we see second swerving left, then right. This time, whoever was in second there, I just mentioned him, Zane, or not Zane, excuse me. That's a really good drop there. Switch back over. Maybe we can see a snipe here from the side of Artie. He's going to be throwing it onto the tight line.
And the banana will break it so that it does not have any opportunity to hit any of AV. But we are going to see Artsy in second place, really just sort of breaking up that top 3 potential for AV here. A red shell on the bagger is... I think that was a net gain for EXO as he redded Joris instead of Mank.
Yeah, it looked to me like both baggers made the strat very early on. I'm not sure if one of the baggers just went uncontested there, but it looks to me like Mank's winning out in the bagging battle right now. Artie's gonna opt not to go for rail, which is smart as there was a backspin there.
And I think this top 3 already from Avail, I don't really want to say that anything's sealing the deal. You know, obviously there's
No,
no blues
by
or
any means,
shocks or
no.
anything like that. No
Or a
shot.
POW or a
However,
Bond.
I do think that top three already on RBC is not a very good sign if you're EXO. I mean, obviously, as you said last race, these guys are very experienced players and they know how to keep a lead and command it. So we've already seen them do some commanding in the previous two races. I will not be surprised if they keep up this lead for the next couple of seconds here, at least.
Ooh, I'm interested to see what Goomba chained here. Because if he does chain Shrooms, he could easily get up to first, maybe.
And it looks like he will be passing it to Zane, who has the star. It might not be the best decision there for someone to on EXO to waste their star, especially with the cards they've been given right now. It's going to be very difficult for any of them to really pull anything of use to dodge with, especially now that Olafray is holding one of the stars too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't blame him for going for that because you got to keep frontal presence here for EXO. Artie was in fifth in that scenario, and if he goes down and out, it's all up to Goomba rather than having Goomba and Artie contesting for spots. And we already see Artie getting up to second with a golden, so that decision ended up panning out.
And with EXO being in second and third here, I do think that it is possible for Avail to sort of make a comeback.
With your zone.
But that TC from Ballin is going to make things very difficult, and this back
Oh,
green too. I think that EXO is probably going to take this one home with a small
oh, and
lead,
Olafray
at
gets
least a
bumped
2 3
off.
4.
I mean, the tides really have turned. This is,
It's
I thought it
remarkable,
was top
yeah.
three.
I did. I mean, earlier I said anything can happen, etc. etc. But I also thought that it was probably going to be a good race for Avail here. However, EXO was able to pull through without that many items to really set them apart from the rest of the pack.
Not that many items, but crucial items. I mean, we saw a star being held by Artie in lap two, and by Goomba, which he got past the TC and used the star. Got a good chain because he ended up getting up all the way up there, and then we saw a golden from Artie. Those two items were key in EXO's comeback.
And 2 3 4 6 for EXO, it looks like, which is all things considered a very good race for them after the lead that AV held around middle of lap 2. I think that now that RBC is out, EXO is probably going to opt for maybe Coconut Mall or even a track like Waluigi Stadium where they can sort of swarm first and make things difficult for him to keep that lead. However, we could even see DS Yoshi Falls, a very EXO-esque pick for them.
I mean, yeah, I think I could see that in 2, 3, 4. Starting off in first in Yoshi Falls is not super optimal. You have to take a very strong line in first to mini turbo before the waterfall. Otherwise, you're gonna miss the mini turbo and your character will slow down heavily. So could see that, but we could also see something like
C, for
KC.
example.
Yeah,
I mean,
KC.
we're seeing the whole board beat RMC here. I'm not really sure what this means for either team, if I'm being completely honest. I think that some of them are going to opt to bag, some of them are going to opt to run, obviously. But yeah, this race is sort of a wild card here.
It's really contingent on who pulls goldens in any given lap. Whoever pulls a golden is going to get up to a top spot immediately.
I think that AV are sort of picking this because, they know how to play it, whereas EXO maybe just picking this out of desperation. They know that they're down by so much that whatever they can do on on RMC is what they'll try to do.
We'll see who takes the cut in the beginning. Zoan is behind, and don't switch to him. He's behind, but he has triple. He has golden. Triple shrooms. He's gonna make his way all the way up to the top spots here.
And that wheelie bump from Knight and this red shell. I mean, everything is going badly for RT here, which is gonna make it so that the top spots are sort of a mix between the two players. I think you got 2 EXO players up there, 2 AV players.
Yeah, that was good.
So far, not that much. So far, not that much domination from one team or the other.
Ooh. Got sketchy lines here if you're already blue coming in onto Zane. I was going to mention that was a good backspam from Zane earlier onto Zoan, who stayed in the tight line and paid the price for it. But now we're going to see AV. We're going to be seeing AV in top 2 after the blue as well as the red coming in here.
EXO are in decently good spots here, especially with this mega pull from Artsy, which if they have the shock right now, which, yep, it looks like it, this is going to be very good
Oh
news if you're
man.
EXO, especially with this triple shrooms pull.
Top 2 earlier from AV transitioning into a top 2 for EXO, and it looks like they're going to run away here. It doesn't look like whoever is in third for AV, Oliver, is going to grow in time to snipe or anything of the sort unless a blue comes in. This is
And
going to be a
this
clean race.
and this triple greens from Artsy is going to be contingent on their victory. As you know, maybe he's going to be able to back the members who are in 3-4 right now and net a top 3 or a top 2-4 for EXO
No dice.
potentially. Oh, but it does not look like it. And it'll be a top 2-4. Now that Zane is shrooming up here. And things are looking really close for EXO. They are back in contention after the poor end to GP1. They are currently in a valiant effort to take back the lead.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much to talk about in that race. I mean, shock plays a very vital role in who wins the race in this track, especially with how broken that cut is in the beginning. I'm actually going to take a look back at the VOD to see who committed first in the bagging battle. That's usually something that baggers kind of they have a war in their mind of, do I go first? Do I go second? And I think in that situation, Joris ended up going first. And I don't think there was a bill. I think Meg did get caught up in the pack somehow, which allowed Joris to continue to run away without having an item.
Going from down 56 to down 30, it is looking like EXO is sort of making a rally back to being the ones who are taking the command here. And I think that this next track pick is going to be very, very big if you're EXO to try and see what happens from here on out.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be big here. I mean, they opt to go for Peach Beach for top 2. Fairly interesting, unorthodox, but
I mean, I think that EXO is sort of known for their unorthodox picks and top spots, and I think that if Peach Beach is the way that they think their cards are headed, then, you know, more power to them. And it looks like we will be playing it today. What do you think's gonna happen here, Jaggy? Because
anything.
Yeah.
Well, if you're EXO here, you are top 2 and I believe 4th. I think 4th should slow down for a 5th or 6th place box, with 4th being Zane. But we'll see what happens here.
It looks like Zane is just sort of winging it.
Yeah,
But
he got a
Artsy
box
will be
in
the one
4th.
who is going wide to get the better box, and he does end
Pushing
up
off to
getting
Oliver.
triple shrooms. So, you know, maybe he'll be a
he's
powerhouse at the front with those 2 shrooms. And
Yeah, sorry
it
for
is
the-
looking like a street market with all of these bananas on the floor that Oliver is hitting. That'll net him 8th place, whereas EXO is taking the lead in top 2 early on.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see here. Pow into boxes for zone. This could be key. This could actually be one of the keys that could unlock a comeback here if he pulls reds or something. Nope, just a room here. He might try to eventually get a draft on Artie if he can, but Artie goes extremely wide. I'm interested to see the bagging battle here. Doesn't look like either bagger has the shock yet, as one is goldening in 10th.
And triple shrooms for Zoan here. He opts to chain them, which is a little bit questionable, I'd say. But he does get the blue, which is going to be one of the keys that opens up the chest of victory. I'm sort of continuing on with the key chest thing. And it does look like Oliver will be the one dodging up here. And the track pick for EXO does not seem fruitful, as they will be getting a pretty poor race, whereas AV finishes out in top 2.
And the chains, I gotta say, the chains from AV were monumental. I mean, we saw Zoan dodging and pulling triple shrooms. We saw Oliver dodging and pulling a red on the second box, which allowed him to red one of EXO. And I mean, no matter how confident you may be in a track as EXO were in this track, sometimes you can ignore what's best on paper, and that is a perfect example of Peach Beach not being the best track on paper to start off in top 2.
And it will be a top 3-5 for Avail here. So, I mean, I don't want to speak for EXO, but I bet the guy who suggested Peach Beach and Call is sort of face palming himself right now, as they have dug themselves into an even deeper hole than they were beforehand with the 56-point deficit at the beginning.
And then in
And-
terms of Shock, actually, that was
I was gonna say, yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say most of the time we know who Shock it was, but that one, it seemed like an EXO Shock to me that ended up backfiring Ollie Frey. I did say two of them dodged, only one of them dodged. It was actually Ollie Frey predicting it.
And that was a pivotal moment. If that was EXO Shock there, one of the big mistakes that AV was able to capitalize on. Actually, still not sure whose Shock that was. I mean, we did see that it ended up in the beginning looked like it was pretty equal for both teams. So if that wasn't EXO Shock, however, then that was probably the turning point, which gives AV back the commanding lead here.
Yeah, and in terms of GSC points, this is looking like it's going to be 4-0 to start, assuming AV don't, get top 3, top forward. We'll look at the Toad bot or the table bot afterwards. But
And
starting
with
off
a
good.
4-0 lead to start off, it really is difficult for any team to make a valiant effort at trying to get those final 4 points or 6 points because, the damage has already been done 2 GPs in. So, the Tunes format really makes it pivotal that teams like EXO here are not getting blown out like this.
Oh, and usually, yeah, it looked to me like that's a troll. I mean, that's got to be. As we saw Ollie Frey getting bumped into the wall, yeah. And usually as a bagger, you want to stay wide, but in that case, I think Mank stayed tight to try to win out in the bagging battle a little bit, and he ended up just bumping one of AV into the wall. And it looks to me like a couple of EXO get backed in that situation by either Zone or Knight, so AV is going to start to pull away here regardless of that troll penalty.
And a blooper in 6th place, RT is going around the cut here. He's kind of having a life crisis with this TC and blooper. I don't think that he's going to be able to make that much of an effort in trying to get back up there. Unless, EXO pulls the Shock or he's able to pull a Mega or something of that sort. Being in 5th or 6th place, especially on a track like this, is sort of purgatory, so... He does end up getting that
this is going to be really tricky. This blue's going to come in. Is Zone going to get caught in it? They're really close together, Bullet and Zone.
Uh-oh. Looks like they know what they're doing.
There it is. Yeah, I mean, the blue was, Zone was a few seconds behind there, so I thought, okay, what's going to happen here? But very well coordinated.
And that lucky Susui in 2nd is going to be what sort of turns the tides for AV here, as we do see Olafray dodging up with a top 2 already set in stone for AV here.
Yeah, but that was an EXO Shock. I think it was just a prediction there from Olafray.
Oh.
And I don't know how far Zane's gonna come here with that dodge. He did pull triple red, so he's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna be able to get all the way up to 1st here, but that does change the tide certainly. And a blue will be coming in.
also is changing the tides as well. I mean, we've used that word a lot in these past few seconds, but it's just very volatile what's happening in this race right here. But it does look like it's gonna end up being an AV victory, as we see a 1-3-4-5. 1-3-4-5 for AV.
And you got to think of that troll penalty too. If you don't shroom or you don't gold, I mean, those are old MKPS rules. I think in this situation we might be seeing. There aren't any -15, so it's either going to be -10 or I don't think it's a 20. I think it's going to be a -10 for that bump.
I think it'll be a -10 as well. And at what point differential would you say that it's a blowout? Because I'm sort of getting there. Not going to lie. With this 2-3-4-5 as well, I really think things are shaping up in AV's favor. -66 to end the GP.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to think of. I don't think it's one particular race that we can point to that solidified this AV domination. I think it's just been a kind of slow but sure progression as each race has passed. As AV, in a few races like DDR, just running extremely well. We saw Olifre, catching up to Artie slowly but surely. And then we saw also BC3 them playing that extremely well. And then in other races, it was a matter of shocks as Peach Beach kind of went against EXO, assuming that was an EXO shock. And then the last race, I would have to assume that was EXO's as well. Probably didn't pull the best chains as Goomba, who did dodge up, pulled only triple reds, which made him get blued in the end as he wasn't that far away from second. And then honestly, just AV just playing extremely well, playing all their cards right, really.
And while I do think that you're right in the assumption that, there's not one specific race that we can point to that really has gotten AV this lead, I do think that the poor decision making on EXO's part and really not using their shocks that they're getting very well, and I think that it's worth it to point out that they are also winning the shock count. I think that these poor decision making with the shocks that they are getting and with the items that they are using, that's sort of giving AV the win.
In Gardens, though, I mean, I don't think that was a bad shock, because, I mean, AV were top 2. It was just circumstantial. Yeah, the Peach Beach one maybe was a little bit iffy, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it's still feasible in terms of a comeback here. It's going to be a tough task, but they are still within striking distance. Not striking distance, within spinning back kick distance, down 66.
I do think that, it's not... It would not be, correct to totally take out EXO of the equation here. However, I do think with the 4-0 lead and the GSC coins now that with that final race there, it's going to be very difficult for them to rally back up.
And both baggers actually went back right away. That's fairly interesting to see. One of the baggers got caught up in the boxes, though. I think maybe he hit the wall, and he's falling really far behind whoever that was in ninth that was contesting for the 10th. Maybe Mank winning out.
And Olafray goldening up here on a track like this. Goldens are probably the best item that you could pull as a runner, and that will net him in 3rd place as he is behind the 2 NA people in top 2 with RT.
And if you're EXO, I'm surprised Zane used that ability. He's probably forced out of it, maybe a red or anything of the sort. So it's going to give EXO... Oh, already just got dropped into the penguin. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, and it looks like 3-4 for AV here, and they're going to try and rally back up into top 2.
This is it if you're EXO, though. I mean, top 2 with Mank just completely gone.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that if EXO is even starts to lose a little bit to AV in those top spots, they can definitely rally back.
Oh, this is tricky, though. This is tricky. Joris is catching up. Joris is catching up here to Mank, and this is going to be very interesting to see how Mank is going to avoid a potential troll attempt.
Very true. Top 2-5 for EXO here as, they're coming to the second set. They're running out of time to really make a big decision happen. However, that will be Olafray getting hit out of 4th, which will...
That is such a key backspam there from Yosher. Backs it in the cave section, which is fairly tight, and Olafray not able to react in time. Artie not able to make a play with his bomb, I don't think. He's too far away from Yosher. He's going to back this one.
It will really depend on the kind of items that... I guess that blooper did something, since we are seeing a top 3 come out for EXO this race. And this could be the start of a big rally that will lead them into victory, or at least into GSC point contention.
I'm inclined to believe that Mank had that since the end of lap 2 or beginning of lap 3, as we did see him getting slowly but surely caught up by Joris. But in the end, he did maintain the shock and just waited until top 2 crossed, as there might have been a couple of dodges coming out in the cave section, perhaps. But good race to EXO to start off with.
Yeah, EXO really putting their foot down here with that top 3 showing. And they are now only down by 49. I mean, that penalty from last race is probably going to bite them in the back sometime here. But 49 points. I mean, this could be the start of something really big here.
Yeah, and if anybody gets any updates on that, I don't have access to the rep chat. We might have to look at the I don't know if there's a referee penalty chat. That could play a vital role in how the rest of this match plays out.
Well, I think that if you're EXO here, you're gonna try and want to capitalize off of this lead with a track that is more, traditional, like BCWii, as they're picking right now. Instead of a course like Peach Beach, where, they thought that they could capitalize off of it with their, top 3-5 finish in the previous race, and were squandered and ended up giving AV a much larger lead there.
I would have to assume that penalty to whoever's in chat would be a -10. I would be inclined to believe so, because that was a hard bump that allowed made Olifere get redded right after. Since it's not a star troll, it wouldn't be a -20 unless somebody gets bumped off a track. So I would have to believe that one is a -10.
And a Desert Hills here could sort of get rid of this EXO lead that they have already in the first race.
This is
Because
a
we are
toss-up.
seeing that yeah, we are seeing that AV here are going for the toss-up track where, it's anybody's game as to what could happen here.
We saw 2 people getting wheelie bumped and then Yoster hitting the tight sand section. So 3 of the top 3 immediately just falling out.
A lot of shenanigans happening in those first 10 seconds. However, out of those miss-ups and blips, we are seeing that it's a pretty even split as to who's in the top spots right now. Although that red could change many things.
In terms of the bagging battle, it looked to me like seemed to me like they were both waiting at set, and then one of them had Bill in ninth. So whoever that is, and then someone else just fell off now. So the bagging battle is going to be a lot closer. And we'll see who's winning out in the end.
And this blue is going to be very quintessential to having EXO be able to get back up there and try and do something. However, this top 2 that's being put in place here is going to make things very difficult. And if you're EXO here, you have to be very aware as to...
Beautiful from Ballin.
Wow. That was really good, yeah. If you're EXO here, then you have to be very aware of the kind of items that you have and how they can impact the top 2 in order to try and get them out of there.
Yeah, there's not much of a way they can get him out. But shot comes in, though. It looked to me like Joris was winning that one, and Mank ended up just cheesing that one in ninth from what I saw. He was winning out in the beginning, but he pulled Bill, and he ended up getting...
Those bananas might not make it possible.
Oh, switch over.
Looks like it. And the top 3 for EXO here. Wow.
I was gonna say
quite the comeback. Yeah.
I was gonna, how I said there's not much of a way they can come back. I was about to mention that Joris was in 10th since like the beginning of lap 2, and I was gonna say unless EXO pull a golden in 5th or 6th, there's not much of a way to break up the top spots. But I mean, Mank got what he deserved in the end. He was in 10th to start off with. I was taking a hard look at the mini map for a good 15 seconds, and I saw he got passed eventually by Joris after he fell off. So.
And as you said at the beginning there, it's a very toss-up kind of race, and we saw that the toss-up ended up going in EXO's favor as they take a top 3-6 lead, and now their lead is cut down all the way to 26, possibly 36, but we'll still have to see with that penalty.
This is BCWeable again. We saw them picking in BCWe in the second race of the GP, and they're top 3 once again. I mean, BCWe is standard for top 3. Take all the boxes in the ramp section and just back your life.
And I definitely think that, these spots here are going to be a BCWe. Like I said earlier, they're not going to try their hands at another track that, they may be good at. But Moo Moo Meadows from Avail here. I have seen these guys make a very, very good effort on Moo Moo Meadows before. It's one of their tracks that they're super, super good at, and you wouldn't really expect them to be good at.
I have one thing to say. AV Mole. If anybody remembers that meme.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah,
that was a long time ago.
AV versus CB match 2 of semifinals of Spring Split Season 1 for MKPS.
Oh,
go ahead and check that match out. That's where
you're going into the archives here.
that's where AV Mole was born. But anyway, it's going to be LC here. We've seen toss up after toss up after toss up, and here we go again.
EXO here, I can't really comment on their spots, but they are top 2.
Yosher got sniped though, just at a second, yeah.
Yeah, as I was speaking, he got sniped. That's not very good there. Although it could be good if you're trying to pull a dodge and you're Mank and you're in the back there.
We're gonna see Zoe and I'm not sure what happened to Zane. I think maybe he clipped the wall. Not entirely sure what happened there. But one trim here, if you're Zoe, it'll be interesting to see if he goes for cut or keeps it for a blue. I don't know what I would do. I would go for cut if I were Zoe. Yep, there it is.
If I were Artsy here, to sort of switch the subject, if I were Artsy here, I would, try and get an item that will take Ballin out of second instead of trying to target, Zoan, because Ballin is much, much closer And
It's
you're on that same continent. You don't really have that lag disadvantage or advantage, you could say. And he's pulling a whole lot of reds here. To
4 reds in a row. You gotta love it.
four reds in a row is going to definitely make things difficult for AV.
We got a Bill dodge coming up from Yoster and a star dodge somewhere else. Looks to me like that was no, it was Ollie Fair dodging the Mega.
And a 2-3-5-6, yeah, 2-3-5-6 for EXO there. Not the kind of race that you need if you're down by 36 or 26, but to start. It's a start for sure.
I mean, a little unfortunate there if you're Ballin. I mean, that was a good strategy from Ballin. As he was getting redded, he kind of backed the fib like last second to try to catch Artie off guard there. But Artie was, his experience. He's not going to get caught by something like that, and he ends up getting the red off afterwards. And in terms of the score, it's going to be a -1 for EXO.
Ouch. And if that penalty goes through, then it's pretty much wraps for EXO here. That -1. They really needed a bigger race to try and make a comeback. But they put up a good fight in this last GP. They could definitely still compete for those last 2 GSC points.
Yeah, and they were down. I believe they were down by like the 60s or so. I could check the table bot real quick. I don't know if
They
we
tried
do
their
have
best. They tried their best. That's for sure. They really did try and make up a fight in these final few races. They tried to start up that after that top 3 that they got right before Peach Beach. They did try and start something up, but in these final few races, they really have tried their best to cut down that AV lead, try and get the final 2 GSC points, maybe even clutch
Yeah.
out a win. So they
By the way,
A for effort.
penalty has been included in the score, so it's going to be down 32 for EXO with the penalty included. They have to all run here if they want to win, but they are up by 34 in this GP. So if they win this GP, the final score will be 8-2 for AV rather than 10-0. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with the GSC scores, each GP win is 2 points, and a match win is 4 points. So assuming you win 2 GPs but lose the match, you win 6-4. If you win all 3 GPs, 10-0. If you win 2 GPs and win the war, then it's 8-2.
Well, we are either going to see a pretty dull ending to a volatile match where we've seen both teams sort of go back and forth in these races, or we're gonna see Mario Kart history as we see EXO take the reins and maybe get a top 4, 6, top 5. It all comes down to these last final minute and 30 seconds.
And we do see Mank slowing down in 9th there, trying to cheese that 9th place box. 2-3 here for EXO. Blue would be vital here. I'm not sure if George is in sniping range. He's just barely out of it unless someone tries to snipe on the ramp section coming up here.
And it looks like EXO are in 2-3 right now. Not very good spots, if I'm being honest. You do not want to be in this kind of situation where you're in the top middle. You kind of want to be more in the back to get dodges, or more in the front to really take a commanding lead. But they're not in first, and they're not really in last, so it's not going to be very
shock.
good for them.
I'm not sure if Zane thought that Zone had the shock, but it looks to me like it's going to be an AV shock regardless, getting Zone all the way up, and it looks to me like it's going to finish top 3? Top 2?
Top 3, maybe top 4.
Top
4. Wow.
And is that going to? No, actually, I think EXO are still gonna get the GP point regardless.
Well, first of all, I want to say that EXO definitely did try their best in making that possible, but that top 4 at the end and the dull race on LC really made it difficult for them. However, I want to ask you, Jaggy, do you believe that this was an AV win or a EXO loss?
I would say more so AV win. I mean,
Yeah.
EXO had a couple of moments where they could have approached something differently, but I don't think that they played. I don't think that they played poorly overall. I just think AV, who did lose out on a couple of players, and who have kind of started off this season 1 and 2, not the best start. I think they really made a statement today, and I think they played most of their cards right. In terms of the bagging battle, it's kind of even from what I saw, kind of back and forth trades. But I just think that AV played their hearts out, and I think they ultimately deserve the win for how well they played.
I would agree with that assumption. I do think that AV played very well. They played a lot of their cards right. However, I think that EXO had a better shot at winning this if, they just made a couple different decisions or made a couple, different plays here and there. So I'm actually going to be saying that this was an EXO loss rather than an Avail win. I think that this match could definitely been made a lot closer had
I
EXO,
think
capitalized off of their shocks and, really gotten really had better playmaking and decisions. AV played their hearts out, that's for sure, but I do think that EXO could have put up a valiant effort and they didn't really in the end.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at the Peach Beach track pick. I think the two biggest factors were the Peach Beach track pick, as well as BC3, which I remember actually there was an EXO shock in BC3 when AV were top 3, and then there was a blue coming in. I think had EXO not fallen behind too early on with Artie failing the low trick, if you remember that, he failed the low.
I do
Didn't
remember
fail
that,
it.
yeah.
Didn't fail it. He partially failed it and then got bumped off. In
Yeah.
that situation, I think he would have been able to block the cut and prevent AV from taking it, as they did take it lap 1 and lap 2. So it's just one of those mistakes that could turn the tides, and I think those are the two biggest factors as to the EXO loss perspective. But I still think AV just played really well, and
Well,
can't fault EXO
as we
too.
are seeing the 61-point victory from Avail, congratulations to them and to everyone who bet on them. The GSC points will be 2 EXO, 8 AV as they take this win in, what is this, week 2, match 4?
This style.
Is that correct?
Week
Yeah.
2, match 4, correct? Yeah.
And we will be rating Torpetter as our, raid affiliate today. And I hope you guys really enjoyed the stream. Check back later for more matches, and we'll see you guys later. This has been Henry US.
This has been Jaggy.
Peace to the out.
Peace.